Today we're going to go over numbers in Japanese. In this lesson, we're just going to go over counting to 10. I'm going to have lessons on counting to 100, 1,000, etc. all separately because I think it's important to go over things in detail, especially if you guys are self-studying. Longer videos with lots and lots of examples and detail is important. So we're going to go over the website. Just kind of like all the information on there. I'm going to add extra notes and comments. And then we're going to go over each number in more detail and their kanji. So here we go. We have 1 to 10. You can kind of take a guess, but 1 is the first one and 10 is the last one. I'm just going to go down to like ichi, ni. I'm not going to highlight them all because I think it looks really, really ugly when I highlight on my iPad. So yeah. So ichi is number 1. I don't have a lot more to say on that, but ni is number 2, and I do have something to say on this, specifically these two together. I know a lot of people when they first start learning, they think of it as ichi ni, like I have an itchy knee. It doesn't have anything to do with numbers, but it does help a lot of people remember it because it's kind of funny. Ichi ni. Ichi 1, ni 2. We then have san, which is 3. If you know any other Asian languages or if you just know how to count to 10 in them, you'll notice that a lot of them have sam, or I say Asian, let me correct myself, East Asian languages, I believe. Like I know Korean is sam, I think it's san in Mandarin, etc. So yeah, san, I guess because they all have the same roots, common in East Asian languages for number 3. If not, disregard all of that, or you've just learned 3 more ways how to say 3 in 3 more languages. 4 has 2 ways of reading it. I'm going to explain this in a moment, but for now it is just shi/yon, 4. You'll see a few videos, they don't say that there's 2 ways. Basically just when you use shi and when you use yon is different, and it is something that you are going to hate for the rest of your Japanese learning experience. Because you have to kind of learn whether you need to say shi or yon every time you learn like a new way, like a new counter, like maybe you're counting people and you need to figure out whether you have to say shi people, like 4 people, or yon people, like 4 people, etc. So enjoy. 5 is go, like I'm gonna go to the I don't know, I have nothing for that one. I'm gonna go to the at 5 o'clock I'm going to go. There we go. Roku is 6. Again, I have nothing for this one. 7 is the same as 4 in that it has 2 readings. We'll explain that later, but for now, shichi, nana. Hachi is 8. I have nothing fun on that either. Q is 9. There is another reading for Q. It is ku. We'll go over that when we go over them in detail. Not as common as like shichi and nana and shi and yon, but it does exist. You'll see it occasionally. Ju is 10. It sounds very similar to Q. I get a few people that mix these two up and just say the wrong one. You'll get used to it eventually. If you're ever worried about them kind of sounding similar and being like, oh no, what if I hear 10 when they're saying 9 or 9 when they're saying 10, you will get really used to hearing these sounds. So don't worry if it's difficult for now. Okay, let's go over these one more time, but backwards. So, ju is 10, q is 9, hachi is 8, shichi/nana is 7, roku is 6, go is 5, shi/yon is 4, san is 3, ni is 2, ichi is 1. What you might occasionally hear is ichi sounding kind of more like ich. Like you just hear that occasionally. Pronunciation. Okay, you may have noticed 4 and 7 have 2 different readings. In Japanese, the sound shi is associated with deaf. So shi literally means deaf. So Japanese people consider 4 shi and 7 shichi unlucky numbers. Shichi also sounds quite similar to 8 hachi, so using nana avoids this problem. when I say it sounds quite similar, I've kind of heard that's a reason. I get a lot of people that are like, I don't hear it. Yeah. As I'm sure, as I'm sure some of you are curious about where yon and nana come from, Japanese has two counting systems, and this is actually really important. Not a lot of books I've noticed kind of explain it like this, and I think it will make your life a lot easier later on if you think of it like this. So it has ichi, ni, san. It's the most common and is, I'm assuming this is a Sino-Japanese, but I realized the other day, I was like, is it Sino? Is it Sino? I don't think anyone's ever said this word in front of me. Sino-Japanese, Sino-Japanese. And I'm like, it's got to be Sino. Sino? Shino? Anyway, it's got the one meaning it originates from China. So if it's, I'm going to call it Sino. Sino-Japanese originates from China, as in the Sino-Japanese numbers originate from China. They do not sound the exact same as the Chinese. So you've got like san in Chinese. Ignore that pronunciation, please. I don't study Chinese. I just know 1 to 10. Ichi, R, ni. I don't, I kind of get it. San sounds similar. Shi, sa, yeah. Anyway, the other counting system is native Japanese, meaning they originated in Japan. Native numbers are less common, depending. I guess they're less common. Could be, you could argue. If someone wanted to argue that they're not, I wouldn't argue back. But used to count items such as I'd like free ramen, etc. So that's one of their uses. They have quite a lot of uses. I would say one of the main ones that everyone hates is counting the days of the month, like the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. Everyone hates doing this. I'm going to pause here and add some notes because this is kind of why I do the videos. When you are learning numbers, so when we get onto the counters lesson, I believe, I want to say the first counters lesson I do with you guys is somewhere around like lesson 14 or lesson 15, but it might be earlier. I can't remember when I do counting people. Maybe 10 or something, I don't know. Anyway, so when we get onto counters and we encounter our first counter that uses this system, the native numbers, and we'll go over what they sound like at some point. You'll hear them, actually, let me just say now, you might hear like hito, futa, etc. for the native numbers. When we learn the first counter that uses these native numbers, we are going to learn it as if it is a new set of numbers, because it will make your life so much easier. Because, for example, 5 ramen would be ramen itsutsu. Itsutsu is 5, like the 5 part. The 5th day of the month would be itsuka. So itsutsu, itsuka. You can hear like the 5 part itsu in there, etc. So like they have a similar sound. And if you remember, if you learn the native numbers, it makes it so much easier because you're learning the su ending for counting things, and you're learning the ka ending for days of the month. Itsutsu, 5 things. Itsuka, 5th day of the month. Wow, I made that so much more complicated than it needed to be. Let's go on. So 4 and 7 sometimes borrow their native Japanese readings in situations that should use Sino. Sino. The good news is that all of numbers will stick to the rules. So basically, because it's associated with death, they don't like using the ichi, ni, san, shi. So they just kind of sometimes take it from their other counting system, the native Japanese system, ichi, ni, san, yon, so that they can avoid saying death. For now, let's just focus on the Sino-Japanese numbers. Have I been swapping between saying Sino and Sino? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Okay, no, generally when counting, you're going to be using yon and nana. So that is actually a really important note. You're going to likely for now, not even likely for now, because everything we learn, it just kind of like, sometimes it's shi, sometimes it's yon. But if you are just counting, you're going to use yon and nana. For example, math equations, age, all yon and nana. Just keep an eye out. Oh my gosh, some of these exceptions, it's like 7 hours is shichi ji, and 7 minutes is nanafun. So have fun. What I will say is, chances are if you get it wrong, you're going to be understandable, but you need to eventually get it right. You can't kind of keep pushing it to the back, especially if you plan to do any exams. But don't stress about it tons right now. Don't like lose sleep over it. You'll kind of get it just from hearing it millions and millions of times as well. Okay, let's go for number one. This is this little bit here. It's kanji, nice and easy, literally one stroke. The easiest kanji, probably. I know someone out there might like argue with that, but yeah, probably for a lot of people, the easiest kanji is romaji, so romanization. Romanization is ichi, it's hiragana. So again, ichi just in hiragana, but one, ichi. Two, ni. This here is its kanji, two strokes, nice and easy. Make sure the top stroke is smaller than the bottom stroke. It should be a nice little triangle shape. Trapeze, quadrilateral. Oh my gosh, it's been too long. Okay, three, san. Make sure, again, you want it to go in, out. So the stroke should be the smallest, the one in the middle, and the stroke should be the longest. If like you accidentally do them all a similar size, or these two are kind of similar, or even these two are kind of similar, it's not the end of the world. But if you want to write correctly, usually the middle stroke is the smallest by a tiny little. Four, so this character can be she, yon, even sometimes yo. You're going to see that occasionally. I think this appears when it's a mouthful to say yon. So for example, 4 o'clock is yoji rather than yonji. All I can think is it's easier to say yoji. I could definitely look up the real reason why. I'm 99% sure it's going to be that, but I'm sure, knowing my luck, it's the 1% chance that it's not that. Anyway, you'll see yo occasionally as well. I don't really have a tip for learning this one, except 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of like it's got a box with 4 sides for number 4. Here is 5. It is said go. I think a lot of people think of this one as having a little 5 in it, so it's kind of shaped like the number 5, but then it has a few extra lines. Enjoy. 6, roku. I have no tips for this one. I'm so sorry. And there's a few more in the future that I'm like, I can't help with that either. 7, nana shichi. This one kind of looks like a 7 that's fallen over, so a 7 upside down. 8, hachi. I have no tips for this one either. I can't even think of one on the spot. There we go. 9, Q. I don't have a tip for this one either. I guess the closest thing I could get to a tip is that kind of looks like a K for the Q sound. Might help you remember 9 and... Okay, let's test. Basically, you're going to see a number here. If you see a number, I just want you to guess how to say it in Japanese. The answer will appear down here after a couple of seconds. Give or take a couple of seconds. No, just around 2 seconds after the Japanese word up here. I want you to guess what number it is down at the bottom. So let's go from number 5. Go. 6. 7/7. 5. 10 2 oops 9 7 4 2 1 10 she/yon 8 8 3 6 9 9 1 or 1 3 8 and that is it. You can go back through and watch again. I will have another lesson up soon on 10, probably to 100, maybe 10 or 11 to 20, but I think I might just do 11 to 100 in one. We'll see. And if you need to rewatch, go ahead, and thank you for watching. Just a reminder, you can sign up for my website directly on the website or via Etsy. You can also trial it first. So I have a few free lessons going over some of the basics, hiragana, some kanji, just explaining everything you need to start learning Japanese. And then from then on, we have a few paid lessons just to help support me and the time spent making all of these lessons. I created my own curriculum because I sometimes don't really like how a lot of the textbooks explain things. I think they make things really, really complicated, and I think they make very easy things harder by using a lot of jargon